cash and fund balance report, please.
Okay. Hey, first of all, I learned a few things since last meeting. I need to do a roll call at first, so I'm just going to call everybody's name off and just say here. Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Waddell.
Here.
Commissioner Val. Here. Commissioner Smallridge.
Here.
Commissioner Meredith.
Here.
And Commissioner Fritz. So I'm going to Chuck.
He's there.
Thank you.
Okay, he's here. Okay, good deal. All right, cash and fund balance. In the general fund, our restricted funds are at $891,192, committed at $2,057,000, assigned funds are $519,857. Unassigned fund balance is at 3.4 million, and just something to keep in mind, it will be reimbursed of $950,854, which will get the unassigned back up to 4.4 million. In fact, we're closing that bond on Monday, so we should have that money Monday put back in our account. So the total fund balance is 6.9 million and cash is at 11.9 million, which will move that 950,000 will move cash up to 12,924,000, which is comparable to last year, which was 13,548,000. So any questions on fund balance or cash and fund balance report?
Any questions? Hearing none.
All right, sales tax for March. We reported this in commission meeting, but we collected 2.7 million as a whole. Anderson County was 323,620, which was up 33%. As a whole, we were only up 6%, but the county was up 33% from last March. So last March we were at 243,438. This March 323,620. So we still had a good month of March. I'm anxious to see April though.
Thank you, Robbie.
All right, and for the EMS report, we report out each month that after April, they have 87.5% collections on their revenue, and they spent 79.8% of their budget, of their expenditures. So they're still keeping pace like they have every month, doing a really good job with their expenses and revenue. So that's all I have on the cash and fund balance.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Nathan, for doing a good job. Our consent agenda.
Yes. So last month, we approved all of the budget amendments at one time. We can do that again, or we can take them up, we can break them up in sections like we normally do. Just, the only reason I say that is because we have to do a roll call after each motion. So it's up to, we can do all 30 at once, or we can do 0 through 9, start out. Whatever the will is of the meeting.
I'd like to hear a motion that we accept the budget.
I'd like to make a motion that we do break it down as to the agenda, the way you've got it separated, Robbie. I've got some questions.
Sure. So let's just start with the consent agenda. It's budget amendment 0 through 19A.
Do we have to vote on that or no? Are you okay with that?
I'm okay. We don't really have to vote on it. You just, I don't think, to keep it just to go in the normal format.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Teresa.
So 0 through 19A is consent agenda. Any looking for approval as a group or individually, or we can even pull one out if you have any questions.
I'd like to pull number 4 out.
Thank you. I was going to ask the same thing.
And then I'd like to pull number 7 out, please.
What's your question, Teresa?
On number 4, there's a comment on there where it says ×2 with a question mark. I want to know, it says Lieutenant Owens, ×2? Are they getting 2 or are they getting 1?
Well, in the bid, it looks like they're getting 2 because it was 1260.05. Brian, do you know anything about this? Central Technologies, courtroom security.
Hey, Robbie, this is Tyler.
Yes, Tyler.
This is the courtroom Security Committee approved this. It's a computer for juvenile court. Right now, they don't have a computer that can see, where they can monitor all the cameras. And then also it's the computer for the third floor checkpoint. It is on its last leg. So this is something that Judge Elledge put together and then asked us to present to the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Tyler, because that was my question. What is it?
Thank you,
Yeah, I'm
Tyler.
not sure who presented it, but I know that was the background on it.
Steve Owens presented it. And this
Okay.
courtroom security fund 53920, they rarely spend any money in this code. We have a budget every year, but in fact, we cut that budget from this year, but they still don't spend a lot of their budget. So this is one of the first purchases made out of it this year.
Teresa, what's your other question?
I wanted to know if the mayor was on board with us here today.
Mayor, are you on board with us?
I'm here.
Hi,
She's here.
Hi, Terry. On number 5, I wanted to thank you very much for attaching proof of the costs involved. This is for the Canon copier that you need.
Yes.
I wanted to say thank you very much for attaching the information. As you know, it's rare that we get anything like that. It's all numbers and.
Did you have questions?
And then I have a question on number 7. It's for county commission. It's for an iPad due to a commissioner's not working. And I wanted to know from Brian, is that something that the insurance actually covers?
Insurance. Miss Teresa, I'm over here to the side. I don't know if you all can see me, but as far as that was Josh Anderson's iPad had failed. It totally died, was not recoverable. But as far as insurance goes, it doesn't have any actual like damage from a broke screen or anything like that. It appears it just died. I don't know that that's an insurable item in that manner.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Okay, I'll need to do a roll call vote. So Commissioner White,
Here, yes.
Scott. This is 0 through 19A.
Doing a roll call vote on the consent agenda.
I'm here. Sorry, my little jack thing wasn't doing its thing. I'm approved.
Annenberg,
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes.
Val. Yes. Smallridge. Commissioner Smallridge.
He's there. I saw him earlier.
I did.
Excuse me, I was muted. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Meredith
Yes.
and Commissioner Fritz.
Having problems with the system. They
You need to-
There's Fritz back. Okay, now let's see if he can. Chuck, are you able to hear us? There you go.
I turned my iPad off and back on. It's working now.
Excellent. There you go.
Good job, Chuck.
So we don't have a motion for that, so I need, Shane started to make a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We're good now. Commissioner Fritz, did you approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to number 3.
Number 3 is transfers and appropriations from the school department, 20 through 23.
Motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes.
Val. Yes. Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
All right. The next appropriation is from the county clerk.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll
Sorry,
call.
has to be a roll call vote.
Roll call.
White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith, Fritz.
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz?
Yes.
Right. Next up, we have the library. It's $426, excuse me. Mostly
Motion to
from the
approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote.
White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you. Number 6 on the agenda is from the Highway Department. It's appropriations and transfers 26 to 30.
Motion to approve as a group.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote.
Yes, White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
I'm gonna be dreaming about this roll call. Next up, we have the Sheriff's Department, 31 through 32. For approval as a group.
Motion to approve as group.
Got a
Second.
motion,
Second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Yes. White,
What? Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith, and
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
Okay, next up is the Veterans Office. It's appropriation and transfer.
What happened to number 35?
We're on 34. 33 and 34.
Sorry, we're on 33 and 34.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're both from the, 35 is from election.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alrighty. Commissioner White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
Alrighty, number 35 is from the election office. It's for $10,000. They're decreasing election workers and increasing part-time and social security, life insurance, and Medicare.
Is Mark Stevens online?
I am.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion in order to discuss?
Let's have a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion. This second.
Second. Second.
All right, now discussion.
Thank you. Mark, I'm wanting to know why you need an increase in employment.
What basically this is actually, we have actually hired a part-time, a couple of part-timers to replace a full-time person that has been out. And to basically to offset that, we've needed some additional funds for not only to basically correct the deficient amount that we have, and also for future for the next few months.
How long is your full-time employee going to be out?
That remains to be seen. I'm not really sure right now.
How long has your full-time employee been out?
She is currently, she was, well, I take it back. She was out from December. Well, it's actually from August through December. And she has come back, and then she is out for a period of time that's unknown.
Is this workers' comp related?
No.
No, but it is HIPAA related.
I'm
Guys, let's
sorry?
get phones muted, please.
It's what, Robbie?
HIPAA related. It's, I can't really tell why she's,
Did you say HIPAA related?
yes, I said
Yes.
HIPAA related.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
no,
you.
I understand. I'm not asking what's wrong. I just wanted to know, is the county paying for her employment while she's out due to workers' comp matter. I'm voting against this. And the reason why I'm voting against it is because you're decreasing your election workers' pay by $10,000. And as I recall, you were saying you were going to need all this help this year because it was a big year. And therefore you wanted us to increase that particular code. I don't feel it's right to be shifting it from that area to the employment section, where if this is not workers' comp related, it should be coming out of the full-time pay code itself. So no, I'm not voting for it. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, can I add something to that, if I can?
Yes, go ahead, please.
That's fine. Ms. Scott can have her opinion, and that's fine. That's great. But let me kind of clarify things if I can. We received a grant from the state and actually federal government for $66,000 to cover the March election. So that goes into the general fund. So basically every cost that was associated with the March election has been reimbursed. And of that, that is the additional funds that actually we're requesting. So that itself is, that's a wash. So with regard to whether this is a busy election year, I would think that with everything that's been going on currently with regard to the COVID-19 and everything, it will be a big year and there will be additional costs and expenses. And when you do the budgeting process, you really are taking a guess on what you're going to need and what you're not going to need. And a lot of things that you can kind of account for and you can't account for. So I would like to think that given the nature of everything, we did a pretty good job as far as keeping the costs down. And all things considered, when you look at the big picture, if you look at the actually amount that's actually in deputy registrars, you're going to see that there's a healthy balance there. And the reason it is because of the additional on the part-time help. And that's the reason why that we're asking for the funds. So if anybody else has any questions about that, I'll be glad to answer that question for you.
I do have a question, Mark. It's Catherine.
Yes.
Why are you taking from the election workers? Is that just an overage from?
That's correct. We didn't need as many poll workers as we had thought we would need. And it actually had some cancellations. We had people that were sick, people that actually couldn't work. And that's the reason why we had more funds in that particular code. Normally, a normal election, we would have used all that money. But the fact is that we didn't need all that money this time because of people that had canceled, and we had a number of folks that did not work.
Well, on that topic, going forward, are you anticipating others who will not want to work the polls because of the current situation?
Absolutely. That is a major concern as far as not only us, but every election office, not only through the state, but throughout this country. Most of our average poll worker is 72 years old. So you have to realize that that's a major concern. And not only moving forward, we're going to have to look at ways that we can, keep our folks as safe as we can. And it's even been introduced about using hazard pay as far as working on election day or during early voting. So that's something that we will have to be considering.
Well, may I ask another question too along those lines?
Absolutely.
What considerations budget-wise have you given to protective items to help those people who will be attending and working the polls? And also, I would think that there is going to be a relatively large increase in postage.
Absolutely. I think you're going to, and I appreciate you bringing that up. That is also going to be a major concern why we're going to need more part-time help. And that basically is just through June 30th. So once this is over with, the June 30th, then we're looking at next year's budget. But yes, we're going to need more part-time help to actually process the additional ballots that we're receiving. We're getting more and more phone calls. More and more people are going to be voting by mail just because they don't feel comfortable about getting out yet. With regard to the PPE that we're having to provide, we have qualified for a grant of over $71,000 to cover all that for the August and November election. So anything that we need or things that we want to appropriate for that, we have monies for that.
Have you been looking into actually obtaining the PPE that's going to be needed?
The state is actually going to be providing us masks and gloves and face shields. Outside of that, we're trying to track down as far as what cleaning supplies, even cleaning companies to come in. It's been recommended that we provide cleaning services come in every day to make sure that we have a sterile environment at the beginning of every day. There are other supplies and other cleaning products, whether it's individual pins and individual plexiglass type screens to protect our poll workers and protect our voters themselves. So yes, we are looking into that as we speak.
So am I to take that the state is going to be facilitating the needs that you may have?
The state is going to be basically going to give us the funds that we're going to be, they can't provide everything for us, but they have secured the gloves and the masks, the face shields, and some antibacterial like hand gel and that. Now, again, you have to realize that they have 95 counties that they're trying to supply and appropriate these things for, and we're sort of at the mercy of what they can give us.
Well, I don't know if you're aware or not, but your county has been providing some of those items, and we certainly wouldn't mind providing it if that's something that you need.
We would definitely appreciate anything that we can get. I think we definitely want to make sure we protect our poll workers, but also protect our voters as well.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for your answering.
Thank you.
Any other
Mark.
discussion?
Mark, this is Denver. I have a question to get back to your transfer. Your part-time employee, are they currently drawing a paycheck from the county?
They currently are, yes.
Okay, through sick time?
They're currently through part-time help right now.
I think Denver's
You're-
asking.
No, your employee that's out.
Oh. Yes, they are working from home right now, yes.
Okay, so you're currently paying the employee who is out, and you're looking for money to pay part-time employees for what then?
To basically, because of what we're doing as far as we're seeing an uptick in the absentee voting, the things that are coming due. I mean, we're just starting to see it right now. Tomorrow is the first day that actually can be requested. So we're getting all of our supplies and all the mailings that have to go out and everything. And it's just, like I said, this is something that people think that you just have an election, you get a couple weeks beforehand. That's not actually the way it is. We're preparing months in advance. And that's the reason why we need the part-time help now.
I get it, but it was presented that the reason you needed the part-time, if I'm not mistaken, you were talking you need the part-time help because you had a person out on leave that wasn't currently working.
Well, the reason that we're short on part-time help funds is because we did rely on part-time help while the other person was out, and they weren't drawing anything at that time. They were on, I'm not going to get into much about the HIPAA, but but it was a situation where they were taking unpaid leave.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other?
Mr. Chairman, at the beginning, when I had a question, he said that he had a couple of part-time people. One was for, he's got one full-time person off, doesn't know how long she's going to be out. She's been out since August through December, came back in and left again. Now he's telling us that she's working full-time from home. I'm still voting, but no, it's not adding up.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Roll call.
All right, Commissioner White?
Yes.
Scott?
No.
Denver?
Yes.
Anita?
Yes.
Waddell?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Aldridge?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayor, could you repeat?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Fritz?
I can't hear you, Robbie.
Commissioner Fritz?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Guys, let's mute our microphone.
Item number 36.
All right, 36 through 39 are all from the mayor, the different departments.
Move for approval.
Approve.
As a group,
Any questions?
Approve.
Second.
Yes.
all in favor, we'll go to roll call.
Why?
Yes,
Scott,
Yes.
Ginnenberg,
Yeah.
Waddell,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
All right, that's all of our budget amendments. Next part we have is section A. We have 9 budgets to reject or approve today. Yeah, within the transfer. Oh, I'm sorry. And the first one, I'm going to let Dr. Parrott speak about his 141 budget. And 143 if he wants to.
I'm not going to be on the camera if that's okay, but trust me, I'm sitting here, I can see Mr. White real close. So I sent an overview of our budget out to, when Robbie sent the budget out,
I included that.
and it's included in the package. So I guess what I'll do is see if you want to have any, let me go right here, they can see me. If you had any questions about that, our budget, there are some things in here that you may have a question about. One of them, the money we get from the BEP, it is kind of, they tell us where to use it at. All the extra money we got in BEP had to be used for teacher raises. And one of the things that they had done that they just canceled today, but I still think it's a good thing, is that they were trying by the year 2022 to have a starting teacher pay at $40,000. And we're at 38.5 now. And with the raise, the 1.5% raise, it puts us at 39,091, which is still, we're about 60 out of 140 different school systems, we're at number 60 in pay. Clinton City's above 40,000. Knox County's above 40,000. Oak Ridge, they really don't get into the mix because they pay way more than we do. But this helps us get to that point. The one thing we did is we got to, because of what you all allowed us to do last year, we got to take $600,000 out of our capital outlay, and that money went over into our regular budget. As you know, last year's budget was out of balance about $845,000. And this year's budget is balanced. It is $100,000 less than last year, but in savings, it's about almost $715,000 less than last year's budget. So there is some cuts because of our loss in students. There's 2 elementary positions, 1 middle school position. The halftime safety position, Joe Fogarty will be working till October to finish up a grant. As you know, we got $450,000 for 3 years for our SRO grant. He'll be working on that. The halftime position at maintenance, that's Frank Hillen. He's actually already left. And then we cut supplies and materials and travel. The other thing is we really tried to put a lot of things in our budget. This year, we spent about $2 million out of our undesignated just to buy things that really, like textbooks and our Chromebooks and things like that. And this next year, we really have it down to where we're still going to do our roofs. We're about, as you know, that 177 fund brings in about $840,000 plus or minus a little bit. Our budget capital outlays for next year is about 1.5, and so we need about 400 to 500,000 to offset that for our roofs. See if I've flipped anything out. One of the things that I put in here that we would need to appropriate $300,000 to offset our Chromebooks like we do every year. we were able to pull that out of, the biggest part of that came out of our transportation code, because we didn't spend all of our transportation code this year, because a lot of the field trips at the end of the year, as you know, we didn't do any of our field trips. So we were able to save that money, and we repurposed that money back into that code. So I'll take any questions that you have.
Any questions for Dr. Perry?
I have a question, please, Dr. Garrett.
Yes.
When school does go back into session, will Anderson County Schools have a nurse at each school?
That is something that we're looking at. Right now, we have 14 nurses. There's a couple of our schools that are so small, they just have part-time nursing. And that is something that we're going to look at. It's not in the budget right now, but it's something that we probably will have to look at, especially for that morning duty coming in. You know, those are things that we've been working on, trying to set up a room that when somebody comes in, you know, are we going to have to take everybody's temperature? Are we going to, if they have a temperature, where are we going to put those at? Because a lot of students ride the bus. All of those things are things we started to work on today. We had an admin meeting today, and the state has told us to have three to four plans. One is that we come back to school with some modifications as close to regular as we can. The next one would be is that it's kind of a A-B schedule. Part of the students come one day and part come the other day, which to the best of me, I can't see how that will work. The other one is to have intermediate shutdowns, like you may go to school for 6 weeks and you shut down for 2 weeks, and to let everything clean. And then the other one would be completely online. I will say this, we were one of very few school systems that we went to online learning, that we pushed out new content. And that was for the help that you all gave us when we started the one-to-one projects. Even though Knox County may pay our teachers more, they did not have one-to-one, and they're trying to struggle to figure out how to put that in their budget. And over the years, we figured out, you know, we now have $450,000 in our budget for that every year. And I think there's nothing that can replace that teacher, and our teachers have done an amazing job. But our online content that they've been pushing out has been tremendous. We're getting shout outs from the State Department for things we're doing with virtual field trips, with virtual art shows and things like that. So I think we've got a good plan. As you know, next year is when we're buying high school Chromebooks, and we're going to make sure that all of our high school has the new ones. One of the things we know we're going to do with our CARES Act money, as you know, we've got to start putting in for that grant. It's right at $1.3 million, and that's to offset the things that we'll need to purchase and to backfill what we've had to spend through the virus. We're going to buy all of our teachers a new Chromebook. The way we've been doing it, when the Chromebooks would come back after 3 years, we would recycle the best of those, and that's what we would give our teachers. What we saw through this, when they went home, we had a lot of them that the cameras were not working. Some of the screens were not touch screens and things like that. So those are some things we need to work with that money. And we get 2.5 years, I think, to spend that money. So we're not just going to, you know, come out and buy all these new gadgets. We want to do something that really enhances the student activity.
What has been done to help children who are at home and don't have access to the internet?
We have, for right now, we've been sending those out packets to make sure that they have. Our elementary school, we did packets for all of them. We found out there's about 60 students in the middle schools that don't have internet access at their home. We're working on a plan right now with FirstNet to get out hotspots to those. We couldn't do it this time because the one thing we have to do is we can't just send a hotspot to a student. It has to be a filtered hotspot because of the Internet Child Protective Act. And so all these places, well, just put a hotspot out there. Well, if it's an open, your kids can get on porn and everything like that. So that's some things we're looking at. We're also looking at when you have a disaster, they have a truck that has got some kind of signal, satellite signal, and they can take it into an area and it will cast out. Some of them go out almost a mile and will cast out an internet signal, and people can get on that signal. A lot of that they use was first that for cellular, but we're looking at one that that maybe could be portable. We can take our vans that we transport our students, and we can put those in there and take them out. And we're looking at, we might have to have a little Honda generator, or if somebody at a house would let us plug into theirs. So those are all things we're looking at for next year. We've got a plan to try a day in October, sometime in October or maybe in November, to actually do a complete online day when we're not in, kind of a panic mode. And in that way we can have everybody take their computers home, and we can actually tell exactly who doesn't have that internet access. So
those packets that went out, are the students required to turn the work back in?
Yes, they've had to turn the work back in. Yes, and the teachers are grading those, and the new content will end this Friday, and then they have till the 21st to give those the students feedback on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parrott.
Any more discussion? Any more questions?
I'd like to make a comment to Dr. Parrott.
Go ahead, Ms. Priest.
Dr. Parrott, since the kids have been at home, and many of the parents who were working in their offices and had to go home as a result of the children being at home so that they would be able to, help them with their schoolwork and or keep an eye on them, et cetera. I mean, I work at Y12 Federal Credit Union, and I'm the only one in my department that doesn't have children in school.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what, those parents love your teachers right about now. But I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from the parents whose children have the Chromebooks and they're able to do their work at home. They've been given assignments, whether it's physical education and the mom's having to film her daughter doing, jumping jacks and et cetera, to show that she really is doing her PE work. But they're doing a lot of virtual tours, and they're doing a lot of online learning. So I wanted to applaud you for the teachers having an open mind to the students being at home and giving them work that they're capable of doing without school supervision.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, I do have to give a shout out too to Y12 Credit Union. We put in for a grant, and Y12 Credit Union awarded Anderson County, Ryan Sutton, a $10,000 grant to help with our summer feeding.
Good job.
We want to thank y'all for that. That's one thing that we're going to be doing this year. Ms. Burrow is working with Clinton City and Oak Ridge. We will be feeding our students all the way through the end of June. We don't know what's going to happen in July because all of the regulations go back to where a student has to be enrolled in that school, and they have to come in and physically eat the meal in the cafeteria. So if those things change, but we've really, I think that's one of the things that it has amazed me. The other thing is we've had so many people that have come through the line, and they gave us a donation to help other families. They say, I don't have any children in school, but we want to donate to your cause. And I'll say another thing. Fox and Farley, they've put out these blessing boxes at all of our schools. So it's really been a community support, and everybody has rallied around the students and everything like that. And I want to thank everybody for what they've done. They've done an amazing job.
Yeah, you guys have done an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Any other questions?
One quick question. I just happened to think about it. If a child is required to go to the cafeteria to eat, how are you going to handle social distancing with those little toadstools for seats at those tables?
Well, that's the $100 million question. I just don't see and I'm just being real honest, we can clean, we can do everything we can, but when you put 60 kids in a cafeteria, there is no social distancing. There's no social distancing on a bus. I mean, if you put one student to a seat, then we looked at that calculation, we would have to run almost 3 times as many buses. Well, when you're talking about that going from $3 million to $9 million for transportation, those are all things we're looking at. Now, I will say this, we don't know how many students, we've looked at different reports and says that we could lose students and the parents may keep them home. So we're really looking at that. And there's some positions that we're not going to fill right now until we see how many students we actually have in the seat. But one thing that helps Anderson County, we have an online middle and high school program. And those have continued to run. And we're looking at the high school, we have about 50 student capacity. We're looking at doubling that to 100. And we're looking at doubling the middle school to 100 students. So we're going to be able to accommodate 100 elementary, 100 middle and 100 high school online totally students, even when school starts back. So we're looking at those things.
I'd like to have a motion that we approve budget item 141.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Trigg.
Second.
Got a motion and a second that we approve budget 141. Any discussion? All in favor, let's say aye by roll call.
White,
Yes?
Scott,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Adele,
Yes.
Val, Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
Okay, the next budget we have up is 143.
The 143 budget, if you look, that is our cafeteria fund budget. And that budget, every year it's out of budget. I think it's 300,000.
311.
About 311,000. There's about a 1.2 million fund balance in there. But I think those things, she never spends all that money. This year, we're going to have to backfill the money that she's lost due to, as you know, some of our schools, which is a good thing, about 9 of our schools, every student eats free. Well, a lot of those, if we don't have every student there, we only get paid for what meals we deliver. So we're down a lot in that. In the high schools and North Elementary and North Middle, we didn't receive any for that. So we'll have to backfill that money. And that's part of that CARES Act that we'll take care of that. I think we're about 156,000 in the hole right now that we're going to have to backfill that. So that 143 budget is going to be solid.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. It's Rick.
Motion to approve. I need a second.
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 Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, let's go to the roll call.
White,
Yes?
Scott,
Yes.
Denver,
Annie said,
I heard her. Waddell,
Yes.
Val, Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, we're going to discuss the EMS budget 118. He has 2 options.
Thank you, Dr. Barry.
And Nathan is here, and he's going to sit in the hot seat right now.
Hot seat.
Hot seat.
It is a little warm. Dr. Perry. And before we get started on this, Dr. Perry, I do want to let you know that talking to some other people, my kids are in the Oak Ridge school system, and from the parent of an Oak Ridge student, Anderson County has handled this much better than Oak Ridge has. So I want to make sure you knew that you guys are hitting it out of the ballpark from what I can see. Where my students are still learning things, but it's not required, which as a parent, I would prefer that it was required. It makes it a whole lot easier to convince your kids to do the work and not have to fight it with them as much when they know it's required. And it's, I think not find a place to transfer your students. Yeah. Sorry.
So Nathan,
Yes, sir.
just to speak a little bit about 118, Nathan has laid out option one pretty well. Option two has a surplus of $257,367. One detail I think I need to mention to every budget committee member is there is in the budget, Nathan is asking for a $65,925 contribution from the general fund to EMS. So that would be extra revenue that is put in both budgets right now. So, I mean, when you're voting on that, you need to know that. So without that contribution, budget one has a $224,000 deficit, and budget number two would still have a surplus of $191,442. Those are the comments I have.
Robbie, what's that figure again, please?
$65,925. That's what we put in last year to cover the raises. You know, last year each fund, 263 fund gave each fund money for the raises last year, for the one-time money for the raises. We haven't given any other fund any money this year, but Nathan still is requesting that money. And I wanted that, I don't feel like it'd be right for us to approve an EMS budget without me telling you that that was in his budget. So
Sure.
Teresa, that shows up on page one, on the bottom of that page, 49,800 transfers in.
I put his budget in there, page number one of the budget for revenues. It does show up there in 49,800 transfer.
65,925.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
I really hadn't mentioned that yet, and I should have the first time we discussed his budget.
Questions for Nathan? Do I have a motion to approve it as presented?
I would, and I'll second.
I've got a motion to approve the second.
Yes, sir.
Option two.
I've got a motion to approve option two. I need a second.
Is Catherine Denver second? I have a question.
I've got a motion and a second.
Is that?
Well, wait a minute.
with
Now,
the-
I was seconding the first.
Nathan, can you explain to us what the difference between 1 and 2 is, please?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So the difference between option one and option two really is three things. We asked that we could add back the assistant director position, so all the pay and benefits for that position. We asked that we could add an additional ALS day truck. That was 2 additional personnel, a paramedic and an EMT to staff that day truck. And then we asked that we could convert our schedule to a modified 24/72, decreasing the hours that our paramedics on the ambulance work, the 24-hour units, from 56 hours a week down to 45 hours a week. That requires 9 additional personnel, medics and EMTs, to convert to that schedule. We weren't going to convert to that schedule until January 1. So that's why it wasn't a full year implementation. It was a partial year. So those 3 things is what increased budget 1 as opposed to budget 2. Budget 2 does not have any of those 3 things in it. So I definitely do want to appeal, especially with the assistant director position. That is a very critical position for our organization. So I'm definitely asking, if we're looking at cutting at the ones that are going to exceed our projected revenues, adding that position in does not exceed our projected revenues. In all pay, all benefits does not exceed, but that position is really needed for our department.
Well, and as you may remember, I believe it was during our last meeting, it was questioned as to, well, who's doing the assistant position right now? And you said you were. You were the one that had an assistant. You chose to get rid of the assistant and take on those duties, and now you're asking for help again.
No,
How many
actually,
full-time employees do you have at this time?
So I have 62 full-time employees, but actually that employee, that assistant director position was staffed. That employee left and took job with Tenova. When it came budget time to help balance the budget, I didn't add that position in to balance, so we could balance our budget. So I didn't just remove the position, that person left, and then I didn't add it back so I could balance the budget. I'm asking now that we have the funds, can we add that position back?
Of the 62 full-time slots that you have, how many are vacant?
One,
How many part-time staff do you have?
I think we have 16 to 20. I can't remember the last count. We had a few that came off of our part-time. And so we're trying to add to that right now.
You can't remember how many staff part-time you have?
No, ma'am, we actually just separated a few part-time staff because they hadn't worked in 6 months. And then one of our part-time staff came on full-time. So I can't remember exactly what the numbers are for part-time staff. So it's 16 to 20, I think.
How many vacancies do you have for part-timers?
I don't have a cap on part-time personnel.
Mhm. And so when you lose a part-timer or a full-timer, where do those funds go?
So the funds stay in the budget. The funds don't move unless we make an appropriation, but the funds stay in the budget.
Any more discussion?
I
Got
have
a
a
motion on the
question.
floor.
Could we clarify what the motion is at this point? Is it option 1 or option 2? I've heard both mentioned.
Option 2, Morris, but we got a question from Catherine.
Yes, my question was along the lines of Commissioner Smallridge. Director Sweet, the difference between the two proposals, is there one that is a different time factor for the employees than the other? As far as schedule. Oh, excuse me, hold on.
We're looking at different schedules, absolutely. The option 1, option 2 keeps everything schedule-wise the way it is today. Option 1 takes those employees who are working 56 hours a week now down to 45 hours a week. So it decreases the number of hours they work in a week to get it closer to more of a regular schedule. 42 hours or 40 hours a week that you'll see even for some of our other trucks, they work a 40, 42 hour a week schedule. This gets us closer to that as opposed to working 56 hours a week all year long. I mean, it really adds up. It's about 2,900 hours a year, where a 40-hour person a week works just over 2,000 hours a year.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have a question, Robbie.
Yes, sir.
My only concern in the whole thing is the money. So if we did approve option 1, is it a deficit of 158,470? Is that correct?
Yes. That's
Okay,
the
so
deficit.
do you have any idea where we're going to come up with that money?
Well, right now he has a fund balance as of currently of 241,000. Another 200,000 at year end too, in my opinion, the way it's looking, that he'll have to add into his fund balance. So it'll be about 450. I mean, that would carry it for next year. And then
In years to come, I mean, I don't want to, I'd like to see a plan on how we're going to pay for it. I'm not against option 1. I'm not 100% for it. I'd like to see some of the things like Nathan, maybe not all of them, but I'm not against option 1. I just would, before I can vote yes, I need to see some ways of how we're going to pay for it long term. And if y'all can show me that, then I'll be a whole lot more likely to vote for it.
Thank you, Denver. Any other discussion?
Is our budget right now at a break even, or are we at a surplus or a deficit, or where we stand?
Are you talking about an EMS budget or general fund?
The general fund budget.
General fund has a surplus of about 150,000 or so right now. But I don't, honestly, I'm not, because this hasn't been approved, the 65,000, I haven't taken that out of the general fund budget. So that will make our surplus below 100,000 when I do that.
Does Nathan expect any more money back from the state on anything over the coming year?
So, nothing that is definite. I definitely want to premise by that. Nothing that's definite. So we did get passed in state legislation to increase Medicaid reimbursement for the first time ever since 1994. They've done an increase. In that legislation, it was included that they could increase that even more if they can find the money at the state level. So that's an if. I'm not sitting here saying that that's coming. We would have to cross our finger. One thing to keep in mind about option one is we wouldn't implement the new schedule until January 1. So if we're looking at saying, hey, okay, we're going to go with option one, but we want to say, look, we are going to go, and if the money doesn't come in and we don't feel comfortable, then we won't implement. If Robbie and I come back to you and say EMS money is actually more or EMS money is less, and the general fund's money is more or general fund money is less, and we do that before January 1, we can decide as a committee that we won't implement that new schedule. Therefore, we're basically going to option two by delaying that. So that is one option that we could take a look at since we're not implementing it in January 1.
Well, let me ask this question then. If we, giving the new position would not cause an increase,
That's correct.
we could revisit come January 1 and make a decision then to whether or not to go to the new schedule. We don't have to do that now. We could make that decision later if we see there's going to be new revenue or new funds come in maybe in December or something to give you a chance to maybe to implement a new schedule.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Definitely one thing that, as everyone I'm sure would understand, is you can't hire 9 new people in 24 or in 1 month. So even if we decided in December, which is fine, then we would be delayed and we would implement in February or March. And one thing I did emphasize in the proposal was if we got to that time frame and we weren't able to find most of those people, that we wouldn't implement that schedule either. So I'm not sitting there saying I'm not going to create a whole bunch of holes in my department to have to deal with mandatory. Right now, we're using mandatory almost 30 times a month, and requiring people to work more hours than they already work. So this schedule is a very appealing, a very attractive schedule for us to be able to recruit and retain our staff and compete with everyone around us. This provides that opportunity. When we talked about this last year, we had several people, other medics and EMTs working at other organizations, say, if that happens, let me know, I'm interested. I had part-time staff that were saying, if that happens, I'm coming back. So that wasn't a guarantee, but I do feel that this schedule will attract and help us retain staff, not 100%. We can't do 100% retention, but I really believe it will. But we could do that, yes, sir.
If that's the case, then
Let me offer up a comment here. I've been spending quite a bit of time over in the EMS area. And I've been hearing the conversations back and forth between the staff that Nathan has over there. And I can tell you that one of the topics of major concern and consideration is how much they are really hoping that we approve the schedule as laid out in Proposal 1. They are very excited about that opportunity. And I have even talked with one of the young men who said he's leaving very soon and going over to the plant because of the money. But he had told me also that if he knew for a fact that we were going to be approving that particular schedule, then he would rethink his decision. So that's what I wanted to offer up as to what I've been learning and hearing while I've been over at their facility.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We've got a motion on the floor to accept option B, and I need a second. I've got a motion on the floor for option B, and I need a second.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Oh, wait. Hey.
I do want to say one more thing that I think is required for this discussion. Option 1 is a partial year of the new schedule. So the deficit we're looking at for this coming fiscal year as proposed is actually a smaller deficit than the following fiscal year. For the following fiscal year, we would have a full year. So it would require additional funding more the following fiscal year. Hopefully I said that one up that it wasn't confusing because of it being a partial year. I feel that that's necessary because if we change the schedule, we'll be sitting here talking, well, probably less than a year from now of why are you asking for more money? That's why. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that where I was coming from. I did have that in the material, but I know that was sent some time ago. I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank Nathan for explaining that because that was going to be one of my concerns. And to go to Commissioner Fritz's point, Nathan's got some money left over. Nathan's done a good job this year with working within his budget, and I compliment him for doing so. But it wasn't so long ago, he didn't have surplus. I understand what Nathan's trying to do. I just don't think right now is the time to do it. With Corona and everything else going on, we don't know if that surplus is going to be needed for something else. My suggestion would be, let's get option 2 approved. Let that surplus build up some more. And if he's right, if Commissioner Fritz is right, then we can come back and visit this later on. But I'd like to see the money in the bank first before we told him. And even though it's just a half a year and he's purpose till January, Commissioner, what else, if this takes off, we're going to have to come up with more money to fund this for future years. So I like what Nathan's been doing. I just think he needs to be doing a little bit longer before we actually commit to it. So I'd encourage everybody to vote for option 2.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, could I comment too? I'd like to comment too. I have similar feelings as Commissioner Val. I think we look like we're in pretty good financial shape right now. And I think we are, but again, I want to say right now, but we don't know how things are going to play out over the next several months. Unemployment, businesses are cutting back. We got bankruptcies. It's not a question of how good or bad things are going to be bad. It's just a question of how bad. I think we'll begin to get a better picture of things over the next few months. And, if revenue turns out to be better than we thought, I think we can relook at this. I'd like to also at some point be able to relook at doing something salary-wise. I feel like we probably need to go with a option 2 for now, and then take a look at things in the next 3 months.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Mr. Nathan.
One last thing, I wanted to emphasize again, option 2 does not have the assistant director position, and I'm really asking for that. One of the biggest issues in my department, when you have different shifts like we have, and there's shift supervisors running those, but there's somebody that's consistently involved with them, it creates silos. It creates almost 3 different services. And I'm not asking this position to decrease my workload. I'm asking this position because there are things that are not being done at a supervisory level in my department that should be done. There's the accountability level for my supervisor does not is not as strict or not as prevalent as it should be. And that is very obvious in my department. And me doing both roles, I cannot fully do that position really does. So I'm not asking to decrease my workload, absolutely not. I'm asking because there are things that are not being done that should be getting done, and that position is the one that's going to do it. I have the same number of administrative personnel that my predecessor has. He had 7 administrative personnel, I have 7 administrative personnel. This will be the first time I'm asking to increase that in 11 years now. So that's not included in option 2. Maybe if we could add that, and we still have projected revenue to pay for that.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. I've got a motion on
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a quick comment.
Mr. Reese.
I'm in line with both Commissioner Val and Waddell on favoring the second request. But I wanted to ask Nathan, while it's fresh on my mind, to please remind your employees that when they step out of the ambulance, that people are looking at them and they notice that they're not wearing a mask. So if they're just going to get out to go get something to eat or wherever it is they're going, it's important for them to be seen wearing a mask, because just like, they're looking at us. When I'm at the grocery store, I've got mine on, and that's making a statement to the community. But for your personnel especially, they're seen in the community and looked up to. And if they don't have it on, others are going to assume they don't have to wear them.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Chuck.
I'd like to amend the motion to include, since he has the funds already in his budget, to include the added one position in his, in number 2, and also to amend it to saying that we will officially revisit the other part come November. And I like that, I make that a part of amendment to number 2.
Do we have a second to that amendment?
I second.
I've got a second to the amendment that we add a position, which is the assistant director in budget number 2.
And then we also officially revisit it in November.
Yes, yes,
Can I
yes.
get clarification too, just to keep the 65,000 in option 2 or to take it out? I mean, I want that to be part of the motion too, just so I know what to do with that.
Okay, committee, what's the plans on the 65,000 from the county to the general, to the 65,000? Do we include that? Do we leave that in? Do we take it out? What's the pleasure of the board?
I can tell you right now, with the fund balance right now and the budget accept, we have a surplus of 137,660. If we leave the 65,000 in, that reduces our fund balance to 71,760, our budget surplus, not our fund balance. That's just the surplus, which we haven't had a surplus in how many years in our budget. So, I mean.
Mr. Chairman, last year, if I'm not mistaken, EMS got pay raises and then they turned around and got a pay raise on the pay raise.
That may be correct. I'm not sure.
So in saying that, I don't think it's fair that we allot or dog ear, extra funds for them all to get pay raises when we don't know what the status of the rest of the employees in our county is.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, my motion did not include the $65,000.
Clarification, my second did not include it also.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so if we approve the budget as amended, then it will not include the 65,925.
But he still has enough money in revenue to cover the extra position.
So let's go to the board and let's vote on the amendment. All in favor of adding one position and then revisiting this by the first of the year. All in favor say aye by roll call.
White,
Yes?
Scott,
No.
Ginnenberg,
Yes.
Waddell,
No.
Val,
No.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
5-3, it passed.
So the amendment passes. Now let's vote on the original motion. And option B would be, the motion would be to include the extra personnel minus the 65.9. Roll call vote.
White,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
Edinburgh,
I couldn't hear what the chairman was saying. It was muffled.
Roberts.
What is it that we're voting on?
It's passed. Voting for option 2 and to include the assistant position.
Robert Smallridge, can you keep your microphone muted, please?
You want to say the motion?
Our motion that we're voting on, can everybody hear me? The
I can
motion that
now.
we're voting on option 2 or budget 2 with the addition of an assistant director's position minus the 65,925, and we're going to revisit it in 6 months.
Yes.
Option number 2, with the addition of a assistant director minus the 65.9.
So Denenberg was yes. Waddell,
No.
Val,
No.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
and Fritz.
Yes.
Same 5-3, it passed.
The motion passes. Thank you.
All right. If nobody has any objection, I'm going to talk about the last
Thank you, Nathan.
6 budgets we have. The 3 debt service funds, they all have a small deficit budget, but like 151 has a $1.6 million reserve right now. All of them have enough funds in their fund balance to cover these. I've talked to the auditors and they're fine with it. 171 and 177 are both balanced, and 263 fund is also balanced this year with no increases to the employee or the county has no increases either, and we're adding some benefits like telehealth this year. So we made some improvements with our benefits. So all those budgets are in good shape, in my opinion. So if we could get a motion to approve those budgets.
And what was those budgets again now, Mr. Robbie?
The 151, 152, 156, 171, 177, and 263.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Trick. Second, Fritz.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Let's go to the board and vote. Roll call vote.
White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Denenberg,
Yeah.
Smallridge,
Yes.
I went out of order, sorry. Waddell,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all the budgets we have. So I just wanted to explain, I do have one more motion. I have 2 more motions, I'm sorry. Last commission meeting, when the commission elected to give the Veterans Office another hour that day, and that made that employee a full-time employee. So in the budget, the current budget, or the next year's budget, we have to move the part-time code to full-time of 103, move 19,000 from part-time to full-time. And we have to add an additional $1,156 to the veterans budget in retirement benefits, life insurance, and short-term. Because of that move, that increased that budget a little bit, but he still was under budget from last year. So the motion to
Approve.
Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Got a motion, and a second. Discussion. Roll call vote.
White,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Edinburgh,
Yeah.
Dale,
Yes.
Al, Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the last motion I need is to authorize the finance director, me, to correct any errors identified provided it's not a significant increase.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a
Second.
motion, and a second. Got a motion, and a second. Discussion. Let's go to roll call vote.
White,
Yes,
Scott,
Yes.
thank you, Denenberg. Commissioner Denenberg,
I think she's muted.
thank you. Waddell,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Smallridge,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
All right, so since we approved all these budgets this meeting, the next steps are that I'm going to publish the public notice of proposed budgets and for at least 10 days prior to the presentation to commission for approval.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make one last plea again before we said finish up with the budget. And that is, I've made it several times, and that is, y'all all know that our law director is overworked. And when I first became a commissioner back in 2002, we had a law director and an assistant law director. And we're just down to one law director. He works almost 6-7 days a week, every day of the week. We need an assistant law director. Since we got a surplus, instead of, we don't need to look at maybe take work away from him and give him someone else or whatever, and that's to defeat the purpose. You're still going to hire somebody to do that work. All the work that's being done by the law director needs to be kept in the law director's office. We need an assistant law director. We need let the law director hire someone to be an assistant law director to help that office out and help this county out. And while we got the extra funds there and surplus in the thing, which is recurring money, let's help this county out and let's help all the departments in this county out. And let's keep moving forward and let's ease up the workload that this law director has. I think between $75,000 to $80,000 we paid all the benefits and insurance and everything and the salary for someone to be assistant law director.
Mr. Chairman, if he's done, I'd like to speak on that.
Are you through, Mr. Fritz?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Wandell.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Fritz. I am still concerned. Same with Nathan's budget. I'm concerned where the money's going to come from in the future. It's not just this year I'm worried about, but I do agree with Commissioner Fritz. I would like for us to formally invite the law director to come speak to us and tell us what he needs and tell us how we need to go about this. That would be my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
I have to agree with Commissioner Waddell. The only concern I have is that when the law director comes to us to talk about his workload and his current staffing situation, he always tends to say, but I can handle that. I can handle that. When we know, in fact, he's totally overwhelmed. I would suggest that if we're going to discuss it and ask him to step in, that we also ask for Kim to come in and it perhaps give us an idea of what other counties our size do, staff-wise, for their law office.
Good point, ma'am. Good. Anybody else?
One thing I want to say too is that we got an email from the comptroller's office just to let us know that it's extremely important to understand that your government's budget is a changeable document. In other words, once the budget is approved by June 30th, it is not fixed in stone. So we can, I mean, I'm not saying not to address this now, but even if we do the public hearing, we can add that position. I mean, Jay can come and, you know, Kim both and the committee, and y'all can listen to the, you know, the argument or the presentation, and we can add that later. That's not a problem at all. That's not even a problem to add mid-year next year. I mean, we can amend a budget at any, actually every budget amendment we do each month is an amendment to the budget. So That
But we
always
just
can
don't
be,
need, well, we just don't need to put it off, because, I mean, everybody here knows that the law director is overworked. I mean, I've talked to the district attorney, I've talked to Jay himself, I've talked to everybody, and we all know the work he puts in for us and everything. I mean, you talk to him on a Friday, you can talk to him on a Saturday, you talk to him on a Sunday, all hours of day and night, and he is constantly doing something for you or the county. And he needs some of this workload eased, and the only way we're going to do it is by having someone else in his office to help him. And I said, when I first hired, you had the DA and Jay working together out of one office, and now we just got one person, and we need two people.
Thank you, Mr. Fritz. Anybody else?
Yes, yeah, I agree with Commissioner Fritz in terms of the law director. I also like, I'm not a motion, but I would hope that sometime when we get a little better handle on our finances and how tough things are going to be for the next 3 or 4 months, that we come back and look at salaries for our people and also capital outlay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smallridge. Anybody else? Go ahead, Robbie.
okay, just to quickly with the next steps. June 4th, which is our next budget meeting next month, we're going to have the public hearing at the budget meeting. Is what the schedule. We're going to get it public noticed, and then we're going to have the public hearing, and that could be a virtual meeting, but we'll put everything we need to in the paper to do that. So, because the governor passed that we can still have virtual meetings through June. I don't know if we'll be ready to meet live or not, but even if we can't meet live, we can do this virtually. And so June 15th, the next commission meeting, the next commission meeting in June, the commission that'll be the date that commission adopts the appropriation resolution and votes on the budget. So we don't have to have any extra meetings right now because of the work we've done in the budget committee and passed these budgets. So we're in really good shape.
Good deal.
And Commissioner Fritz, I can invite Jay and Kim to come to the budget meeting on June 4th if you'd like to discuss.
I think it'd be wise, I just said we go ahead and hear from them, because I mean, you all can hear from them, because I've already talked to them. I didn't know what he's going through. I didn't know what he said his needs are. I've already talked to the DA, and DA says that agreed with me that we need to do something for him. So I mean, sooner we can get them in there, the better.
I'll invite him to the next meeting.
Our budget meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robbie?
Yes, ma'am.
Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you ask him, like I said, when you ask him to come and talk to us, ask her to get some guesstimated ideas of how some other counties are doing it. You know, I wholeheartedly agree that we've got to get somebody in there to help Jay, but it's a matter of, you know, how much, what do we set for the pay scale and, you know, everything else? What are the duties and so on, rather than us just saying, okay, let's put $100,000 down and go hire somebody.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Racer.
I'll have Kim look
Thanks.
into it. Bring back a full plan, trust me.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, fellas.
I need to talk. When we do that part, since they voted.
This conference is no longer being recorded.